Welcome to Ignite Your Confidence for women in leadership who want to speak up and stand out. I'm your host, Karen Laus. Here you'll get all of the tips and tools that you need to stand out with unshakable confidence. Let's jump into today's episode. Okay, everybody, this is going to be a fun one because I met Laura last year, 2022.
What year is it?
I know. What year is it? And I loved the connection from the moment that we got on that call. And I said, oh my goodness, let's do this podcast thing. So Laura, please tell us about yourself.
Well, thanks, Karen. And thank you for the conversation today. And always happy to see your face. Your smile makes me smile, and it's rather contagious. So I'm happy to be here. And my name is Laura Barnard. As you mentioned, I'm the founder of Breakthrough Brands. And Breakthrough is a leadership and brand building agency for women.
I love it. I love it. I especially love that last part, for women.
For women.
You know, we're both about that. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about how you got into it, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, if I go back in the Wayback Machine, so my background is really as a kid, as an athlete, and as in college, athlete and a psychology major. And I really always, for some reason, wanted to get back to this idea of kind of team sports and psychology, and understanding how to bring people together, how to motivate people, why people think, act, and behave in the ways that they do. And flash forward into the work that we do with Breakthrough, and there's really a lot of those same elements in the work in terms of a collaborative approach to partnering with women to help them really realize their greatest potential in terms of their leadership. So Breakthrough was really out of an idea of applying my skill set that I had developed over the years in branding and marketing into helping something that had a little bit more purpose for me, which was advancing women in leadership.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. And I think about when you were an athlete, like, did you sit there and think at any time, oh, I want to help people with their brands?
Yeah, well, it was sitting, as an athlete, if I go back, I had the opportunity to play basketball at Harvard University as a kid from Chicago. It was kind of a crazy dream. I like to tell the story about my senior year being the captain of the team, being elected by my teammates. However, I was that last kid on the bench. I was the last one to kind of, check into the game. So I was not the superstar on the floor, but I was rather the leader from the bench who could kind of see and connect and communicate with others to really get the best out of them. So I really understood the role of, different types of leadership, the role of communication, the role of, uniting folks towards a common goal. And that was really those seeds of leadership. I think if I pull through today, in terms of what has blossomed with Breakthrough Brands, is really about understanding the unique role of each leader that we work with and getting her to really see how she best relates with and through others to make an impact.
That's so fascinating that I didn't know that about you, that you were on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, right? I brag about that.
That's what's so fun about it. And so what do you think created that perspective to be different?
To be different, I think for me, it was, realizing that, we each have something unique to bring to the table. And especially in team sports, you have on a basketball team, anywhere from 15 to 20 young people, young women, right? And each of us brings a unique skill set and different abilities to the table. And not one person is exactly like the other. However, we're all united kind of towards a common goal. So it was the ability for me to, both be self-reflective and then see in others what was making them so special, so great, and being able to orchestrate that and bring that together to bring out the greatest potential of the team.
Wow. And I'm curious, going back even further for you, were you thinking, like, as a kid, what did you want to do?
Yeah, as a kid, I was this kind of sports and school obsessed kid. I'm the youngest of three. I have two older brothers. So, first thing is just keeping up with the older brothers as a young child. And also with sports, especially, I grew up with this notion that life was an equal playing field. I was a good athlete. I would get home from school, throw my backpack down, run across the street to the playground and play whatever sport was being played.
Wow.
Mostly boys, it could be football, baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever it was. And I entered that playing field with the notion that it was level, and I was a good athlete, so I could, hold my own and compete. I was picked first, those types of things were in the playground, the pecking order, if you will. But I really grew up with that notion of, anything was possible, that the world was a level playing field. And, it took me, as I entered the working world, I'll say corporate America after college, I very quickly realized that that was not the case.
Hmm.
The world, it is not a level, equal playing field for everybody, for women, for women of color, for minorities, underrepresented. So we have to fight and collaborate and work together to make that more equal. And that's ultimately the mission of what we're doing with Breakthrough Brands. We're specifically focused on our work with advancing women in leadership, to close the gaps that exist in representation across all industries, but really to move the needle on making it a more equitable, level playing field for everybody.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It's so critical. And so it was, did I hear you right that it was college that's when you realized?
Yeah, I started to, I think in college, I look back, our coach at Harvard is a legendary coach, Kathy Delaney Smith. She coached at Harvard for 40 years, winningest coach in Ivy League history, any sport, men's or women. So she's this icon in women's basketball, more broadly for basketball. And I know, kind of in retrospect, I know this more in kind of conversations with her after the fact, but while we were playing on the court, she was really fighting behind the scenes for us for everything from the equality in terms of the jerseys that we wore, to the meals that we ate, to the buses we took to the games, to the hotels we stayed at, to make sure that it was at parity with the men's team. And those are Title IX matters that we were, kind of shielded or buffered from, as she'll say, but we knew something was going on, and we knew that we had an equal experience, and that was pretty special. Kind of given we had friends playing in other places where that wasn't necessarily the case, and generations before us where that definitely was not the case. So we knew, we saw Kathy sort of as that leader fighting those kind of behind the scenes battles for us and talking to us enough about it so that we knew what to look out for. But really, upon graduation and going, I went right into just like, I talk about these lemmings heading towards the cliff of, I have to go do this work in financial services or consulting, whatever it was that a lot of the Harvard graduates are going on to do. And I entered quickly into the banking world with a job with UBS right out of college. And I very quickly was assessing the landscape there and saying, this is not, there's not a lot of women in it, first of all. Yeah. And there's definitely not enough women in leadership positions. And I was really surprised by that, because I think I was so buffered and naive to that. I thought, women should be equal represented in leadership as men were, but it was, obviously clearly not the case even today, when we have, only 8% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women. So the gaps, I was a little bit blind to them, ignorant. Again, that kid thinking with that limitless mindset of anything is possible for women, for anybody. And then seeing really quickly that it wasn't, and then figuring out, okay, what do I do about that? As a young professional, say, but evolving over time to see where I could help sort of address those gaps.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is the biggest? Well, not just what do you think? Yeah. What do you see as the biggest challenge for women, particularly those that come to work with you?
Sure. So I think there's kind of, think about it in two ways. Again, we've worked with now over 100 women. So we have these sort of patterns and themes emerging. And there's two big areas. And one I'll just kind of classify as internal barriers, and the other is external barriers. So internal barriers facing women. We've all heard the expression of, the imposter syndrome. You talk a lot about confidence. There's moments in our career where our confidence gets shaken up a little bit. We have self-doubt, we have negative self-talk, we have insidious bias and kind of these microaggressions that exist in the world around us that seep into our minds and then are a blocker for us internally. Think about externally, there's discrimination, there's policies that aren't equitable, there's more, not just microaggressions, but active aggressions against women. Women's rights are under attack. All these external forces and barriers at the macro level combined with internal barriers, and those produce a lot of headwinds for women when they're trying to advance and lead. And you sprinkle in COVID, you sprinkle in all these other things, these big global issues, and it's you have things that are manifesting because of that, like great resignation, or the not just the glass ceiling, but these glass cliffs that people are talking about. So there's things that are happening outside that are external headwinds that are absolutely are challenging to women, and I think are slowly but surely we're trying to figure out how to go against those and break through those. Yeah.
What I'm curious about your story and thinking about, because so many, the work that I do with women, I first of all, well, I'm going to go on a little tangent for a minute
Sure.
because
Yeah.
I find it really interesting when I hear people talk about, well, they this or they that, and I'm starting to really think about how is that like it's never really sat well with me from the perspective of as a woman thinking about so much of the messaging is they, as in whether it's men, society, whoever it is, and I have to admit, just full disclosure, I'm still sort of playing with that in my mind. Playing with that is the wrong word. Processing that because I'm such a person of what can you do to take control, and who is this they in air quotes of that's telling us things that we can or can't do. And so I think about that as the realistic external barriers that do exist.
Sure.
And then really what can we do as women to speak up?
Right.
And because that's the thing that I hear so often is how often women with even with things that are in our control, we sometimes don't actually do the speaking up. Right. So ultimately, the question that I have for you is, can you tell us about a time that you wish that you had spoken up, but you didn't, and how you might replay that?
Yeah, well, I think you've struck a chord here. I think that this idea of speaking up is something we really focus in on and coaching, both individual women kind of one-on-one basis. And then in our group workshops, we talk a lot about this in the context of being a bold leader. And a bold is an acronym that we use to kind of organize our thinking, our frameworks. We talk about being brave, being outspoken, being lucid, and being distinct. And the outspoken one is really, really important. And it's not just being the loudest or shouting out, it's kind of knowing where is your line in the sand, so to speak, and what are you willing to speak up for? What are you willing to stand up for? And then how do you articulate yourself in a way that's relevant and resonant with the audience, right? You don't have to have the loudest voice to do that. So I think back for myself personally in times where, and not to be overly full of pride, but I'm actually proud to say there have not been times where I have not spoken up for something.
Wow.
So
now that's amazing.
I can always do more of it though, because, as a gay woman, married to my wife, of many, many years. So I've been out for most of my life now. It's hard to crazy to say, I'm getting old. I had to learn pretty early on to speak up for myself and speak up for others that didn't have a voice, particularly as it relates to LGBTQ matters. So there's been dozens of instances in my life where I've had to speak up either within a leadership team construct or to groups of people or individually where if something was not fair or unjust, particularly relative to this group, this of which I'm a member. I've been proud that I've been able to speak up and speak out and encourage others to do the same.
That's amazing. That is such a rare thing that most people can't say that.
I'm not afraid anymore. So I was
amazing. Okay. So that implies there was a time where you might have been.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to share that just for those listening that are in that spot?
No, I think back, there was, after graduating from college and kind of back to those, the banking days, right? The first job I took out of college, I was not out at work. And because I thought that would be a deterrent for me in my career. And, it didn't feel comfortable. It was a very straight white male environment, probably 95% kind of checked that box. And I struggled both professionally and personally because I could not bring who I was to what I was doing every day. It was really kind of cordoned off separate. And I think I did the work long enough. I was proficient at it, but there was no way that I was ever going to be able to thrive and survive and be myself in that environment. And that was, I look back at those, 2 years of, it wasn't even a job that I would say I didn't like. It really brought me down, and I had to get out of that and sort of reinvent myself and kind of really hone my own identity with the help of my wife, Lindsay. But really for me, like a reset was going back to get my business degree, get my MBA, and I had to make a decision in that recruiting process, getting my MBA at the University of Chicago. It's not as simple as check the box, are you going to be out or not, but you really have to, you do self-identify by way of the groups that you associate with. And when you interview, Do you leave these important aspects of your life out of the interview, or do you put them in? And I made the choice during those internship interviews that, this is who I am, this is me. And it was, think back early 2000s, this is still, we've evolved so quickly as it relates to that topic for LGBTQ rights and acceptance. But it was a little bit controversial, I'll say, at the time. But I knew quickly that if I was going to put that aspect of me out there, only the companies that would respect and value that and have a home for diversity, equity, inclusion, those were the only companies that would be a fit for me professionally. So I was, looking back, I started my career out of business school with the then Wrigley company, now Mars Wrigley. It's a large food and beverage or food manufacturer.
Yeah,
they were definitely aligned from a value standpoint and made me feel, totally included, totally supported in every aspect. And that was really important. And that was kind of where I really got my foothold as a professional, and then understanding how I could help be that voice for others. Cause I wasn't that voice for the previous 2 years.
Wow. That's incredible. It must've taken a ton of courage. How did you get the courage to do it?
Yeah, it's just, you find strength. You have to have the inner fortitude. This, the B of the BOLD framework is being brave, but you have to surround yourself with people who are, not just confidants, but kind of your champions that help encourage you, build you up, and let you be you, let you celebrate your identity and recognize that. So having a community, having, trusted friends, my partner, obviously my wife now, but having people that are close to you that kind of can support you through that, because you can't do that alone.
Yeah, for sure. That's such a huge part of what you're doing for others now, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So I'm thinking about the women that are going, oh, I just made this mistake. Oh, I messed up. I just made that. Can you share a mistake that you have made in your life and how you learned from that?
Yeah. Well, if I think back to the early days, so I started Breakthrough Brands in 2019 by myself. I was a solopreneur.
Wow.
And I think I look back and I've corrected the mistake obviously since, because we now have a team, and we're moving in from a solopreneurship to a team organization, right? We have a team of 7 that's phenomenal. But I started off, I made the mistake that I thought I could do this alone. I had the will, I had the skill, I was determined. I'd had this 15-year career in brand management marketing. I'd studied psychology. I was totally focused on empowering women leaders. I had, everything sort of lined up, the business plan, the LLC, the website, all these things, right? And I was just like, I'm going to just grind and just get this work done and just grow this business and do it myself. And it took me about a year, and I won't say spinning my wheels, but working a lot. But not feeling like I was really progressing or building anything, or even the notion of scaling something up was a foreign topic to me. So I had to realize quickly, like, assess myself. What am I uniquely talented at? What am I good at? Strengths, talents, abilities. What can I bring to the table? What do I need from others? And then going out and finding folks who could help me sort of put those puzzle pieces together so that I could be freed up to do the things that I uniquely could do. They could do what they do best. And collectively together, we could grow something much bigger than me just working one-on-one with 3 or 4 women every year. We could work with 100 women every year, and we're going to work with 1,000 every year. So the idea of thinking bigger for, internally first, like what's possible, and then thinking with others to be bigger together. That was, I'm glad I realized that quickly, but I almost burned myself out that first year and almost lost faith in this concept of what we're doing, because I had that sort of lone wolf mentality about it. But that was, mistake I'm glad I corrected.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. And congratulations on your success. And I bet you have a lot more peace in your life.
Well, I wouldn't go so far.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
It's a different kind. I'm a action sort of, I thrive in the chaos a little bit, but it's a fun roller coaster ride. I'll say that. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Well, and back to that example, was there a moment when you realized I cannot do this alone, that broke, yes. I don't want to say broke you, but
no, it was. And I can pinpoint it because it was the 4th of July. We try to get away for a few weeks every summer, but we go back out to the East Coast, to this lovely place in Maine. It's like a sanctuary,
Oh,
right? It's my wife's family's cabin, and it's a protected time. And I was enjoying the fireworks on the 4th of July, and my phone was incessantly ringing in my pocket from one of those 3 clients who needed something desperately at the time for a launch. And I was, I took the call and I stepped away, and I came back and I'd missed the fireworks show. And I was like, you know what?
oh,
I cannot be the 24/7 personal brand manager for these clients. There needs to be a different way that we engage with them. It's not, being that totally personal brand manager. What if we could, again, produce something that's a scalable offering that we could reach more people? That's a more discreet project, not this ongoing, never ending 24/7 retainer. So I learned that the model that I was working with was not going to work for my family and just for the balance. But it was that moment where I'm like, I don't want to, I need to put some boundaries around this.
yeah. And you had 3 kids at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I just want to call that out for the audience here that's listening.
Yeah, someone had us running around the sparkler. It was dangerous now, but it was, yeah. But you just kind of realize you have to kind of draw the boundary lines, and try to stick to them as best you can, but set yourself up for success in that way.
Yeah. What's your favorite client success story?
Oh, well, I think I talk a lot about her, because not just because she's our first and most important client, I always joke,
Aww.
but so the sort of reason for being, for Breakthrough Brands and the inspiration, what was my Harvard coach, Kathy Delaney Smith. And this was someone who we didn't have that finely honed prototype of a process, back 3 years ago. But what we went through with Kathy, to develop and from a discovery, strategy, and activation process, kind of at a high level, that we now work through with our clients. Working with Kathy, who's someone I've known for over 20 years, but taking the time to really get to know her as a leader, not just as a basketball coach, and understand why she does what she does as a profession, kind of what is the mission, values, purpose that's driving her, right? What is the change in the world that she wants to see, those types of things, as her coaching career is ending, and kind of getting an understanding of her to understand, okay, what's next for you, and how can we help build your brand, help you share your story, not to win basketball games anymore, but to impact and empower young women on a different level off the court, so to speak. So with Kathy, flash forward to today, she has since retired from the game, but she's doing paid speaking events. She's about to finish her book, which we've helped her to develop. It's imagine a memoir meets a leadership book meets a coaching book. So it's this amazing, historical, but very also forward-looking perspective on what it means to lead for women specifically. So we've got that going, and I think she's just clearer on what her intended impact is and how to talk about it. And it was a confidence thing for her. She was very confident as a coach, but put her on a podium or put her on a podcast, and she might be sure. But now we're getting her to be very much a strong voice for gender equity, for Title IX advocacy, as we mentioned. She's a leadership expert, so getting her to sort of own this, not new identity, but facets of her that were there before, but putting those out to the world. So was the inspiration, I'll say, for the business. And then she was that first prototype, but to see where she's come in terms of what she's sharing with the world, it's been really, really powerful.
That's fantastic. So great.
And you should have her, you could have her on your next podcast.
I was just going to say,
she's a great, she's like the easiest person to talk to. So if you can understand her Boston accent, that's the only challenge. So.
Love it. Well, 2 things before we wrap up.
Great.
What is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten? And what is the best piece of advice you would offer to women?
So I think I will, my father's voice is in my head of the advice. And I didn't understand the advice as a kid so much as I do now as an adult, but, you'll get what you want, but be careful what you wish for. So that was kind of a riddle almost to me as a kid, like, you'll get what you want, but be careful what you wish for. So this idea of being clear on what is it that you want in the world, but being also very intentional to say, I don't to want to be rich, or something like that there's got to be some substance to it. And you have to be cautious because our time is limited, right? And we have to prioritize our life. So be intentional about what you want to go after, and making sure that it's I'll say the right thing for you, the right thing for your family. And it's motivated by, good intent. And I think the advice I would give to, and we do give to folks that we work with, especially, is, ask for what you want, which is it's kind of a weird translation of my dad's advice, but you gotta ask for what you want. A seat at the table, a raise, promotion, a change in culture, clarity on values, whatever it is that's missing that you see there within your team, your organization, your industry. You got to ask for it, and you got to, ask for resources to make that change happen. So just being intentional about what you want, and then being unafraid to ask for it.
Yeah. Love it. Well, where can we find you?
Well, please find me. So check out our website, breakthroughbrands.com, and breakthrough is BREAKTHRU brands.com. Follow us on social, and my email is laura@breakthroughbrands.com. I'm always happy to take direct emails and set up quick 15-minute chats with people to kind of see if our resources are a fit for you or for the groups of women women leaders in your network.
That's great. Very generous. And yeah, Laura, I've again loved you from the moment we met. And I'm glad
we were instantly connected, and I wish you the best at your big keynote speaking opportunity tomorrow. You're going to rock it.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. Let me know how it goes. Thanks for being here. And that's a wrap of another episode of Ignite Your Confidence. I'm your host, Karen Laus. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps other people find the podcast faster, and it certainly helps me. If you're interested in more tips and tools around confidence, please join me over in my Facebook group called Ignite Your Confidence with Karen Laus. Remember, you too can stand out with unshakable confidence.